You see, what the author is trying to do here, and he's trying to get the people to understand, is that you can go through a form of religion just like these people did. And even this God-ordained religion, this religion that God had given them throughout the Old Testament, He had given them the washings. He had given them the sacrifices. He had written it down through His prophet Moses exactly what they were to do. And what the author's telling them is even this God-given religion was not enough. Where do we personalize that? Because what he's trying to do is he's trying to get these people off of the old into the new. He's trying to get these people to move from the Old Testament covenant into the New Testament covenant. He's trying to get them away from ordinances and services and things and steps and things that they would do to be justified into the grace and mercy that God has provided through His Son, Jesus Christ. There are so many today that would play games in their own mind and in their own lives to try and figure out how they're justified. There are those that will go through church ritual or church services, may even go through the very sacred services that God has ordained in hopes that in that they'll find salvation. Communion will not save. Baptism will not save. Only Jesus saves. Not the rituals, not the blood of the goats, not our sacrifices, not the time that we put in on Sunday, or not all these things that we would do in the outer court will ever get us into the inner court. We will never in through that veil on our own ability or power or justification. We can wash our hands as many times as we want. We can go through every step we want. We can jump through every hoop we want, but we can never enter in by earning it. It was simply by invitation. You see, we have to understand one of the principal reasons that Jesus Christ had to die, and one of the principal proofs that Jesus Christ truly is God is the fact that His sacrifice was sufficient. Because you cannot sacrifice the lesser to redeem the greater. You cannot trade in the lesser for the greater. So that is why Jesus had to come. That's why Jesus had to be sacrificed upon the cross. He couldn't just be simply a good man. He couldn't just simply be a deified being. He couldn't just be something other. He had to be something that was worth more than all of humanity in order to redeem humanity. In order for His blood to be worthwhile in this great exchange, His blood had to be worth more than our blood. His life had to be worth more than our life. For Him to take our death, He had to be greater than us. And that's why He is God. Because when you take Jesus and you put Him on a scale and you put all of creation, He made it all. All the mountains, all the stars, all of creation on one side of the scale. Jesus outweighs the entirety of all creation. His blood is completely and totally sufficient. And that's another thing that we have to realize is whose blood it is. Because there are those that will get caught up in some sort of guilt trip thinking that they aren't worthy, that somehow their sins are so deep, somehow their sins are so dark that there's no way they can find forgiveness. And let me tell you, no man's sins are greater than the blood of Jesus Christ. There is no sin committed that is greater than the work of God on Calvary. On the day of His resurrection, when that stone was rolled away, on the day that the earth quakes, the power of sin was broke once and for all. The veil at the cross, this veil that I talked about separating the Holy of Holies, this inner sanctuary, this place where God's glory shone, it was torn from top to bottom. It says it was rent from top to bottom as He died and suffered on that cross. As he cried out, "It is finished," the veil was finished. When he cried out, "It is finished," this separation was over. This consequence of sin has been paid for. This debt that has been owed, that's been hanging over humanity, that has been paid. Today, if you hear my voice, the invitation is out today. The invitation is out to all those that would have ears to hear. May they listen. Our only reasonable service is to give Him our lives. But in exchange, you get the riches of eternity. You get the riches of everything there is. You give all that you are, and He gives all that He is. He puts His name upon you. He inducts you into His family. He calls you a royal priesthood, a holy nation. He brings you into this covenant that He has been working since the beginning of time, that has been laid down from the foundations of this earth. As I encourage you to read on in this chapter, because it tells us that the cross was no accident. The cross wasn't plan B. That God intended to redeem mankind before creation began. That He desired a twice created being. He desired to make something special, something that He had never made before, because He had made stars, He had made suns, He had even made the angels. But He had never taken something that He had made, remade it, redeemed it, after it had been corrupted, after it had betrayed, after it had railed its very fist at its Creator. Because you see, when the angels fell, they fell, and there was no Redeemer sent to them. There was no second chance given to them, and there was no argument in heaven over the injustice. They had sinned, they had disobeyed, and they were cast out. That was just, and there was no argument. But then you have humanity cast down and then brought back. Transgressed the righteous law of God, and God stepped down from the throne and paid penalty Himself. What a just judge when you think of such a thing, that He would not bend the rules, that He would not change the law, that He would not pervert justice, but simply the sentence goes forth, and then He gets down and pays the sentence. So great a salvation. So great a Lord.